They all knew that Chuck Cannon was a poor man, as he only seemed to wear 2 different shirts all year round. Although there was no strange smell, the clothes were already so faded and torn that they were simply unsightly. Someone asked, "Lara Jean, how much does he owe you?" $400. It's only a day's expenses for me, but for him, maybe a month? Putting aside how much he owes me, this kind of person is really disgusting. He doesn't even deserve to lick my shoes. Chuck's expression was indifferent. He looked at Lara and took out $400 from his bag, saying, "I'll return you the money now. I was really grateful when you were willing to lend me some money when I was starving, but you just slandered me. Let's call it even now." Lara frowned and looked at the $400 in his hand. She asked coldly, "Where did you get the money? Did you steal it or rob it?" Someone said, "Let's look at our pockets to see if we're short of money." "Learned it myself," Chuck said calmly. "You?" Lara sneered and said, "Why don't you look in the mirror before saying something so outrageous? How can you earn yourself $400 in the morning? Did you sell your body or something?" The whole class burst into laughter and said, "Ha ha ha ha, I'm afraid that this guy is not worth so much money even if he goes to sell his body." Seeing as so many students laughed at him in the classroom, Chuck sighed and sat back in his seat. "Lara, you should be easier on people." Lara snorted and put the money away. "Then tell me what you have done. Answer some of our questions." Chuck frowned for a long time and made up an excuse. He said casually, "I picked up the money." "Oh, lucky at." Lara smirked, her malicious tone showing some envy. The other students also asked with jealousy, "Hey, how much did you pick up?" Many people were interested and asked one after another, "Yes, tell me, how much did you pick up?" Chuck was speechless. He stared back at his classmates and continued to lie, "2,000. What? You actually picked up 2,000? Damn it, that's my living expenses for more than a month." All the students were surprised and envied him very much. If they had his luck and picked up $2,000, their lives would be much more comfortable and easier. "Humph, you suck. Picking up other people's money and claiming them as your own. Such an embarrassment for our class." When these classmates ridiculed Chuck because of jealousy, Queenie Carson was the only one who stood up for him in the class. But Chuck didn't care about such gossip and rumors, so he just let them talk about it. After class, Chuck went to Yvette Jordan's staff room. Because there was no class in the afternoon, Yvette was listening to music in the staff room. When she saw Chuck, her expression soured. "What are you doing here? Didn't I tell you that you are not allowed to look for me in between classes?" Chuck said with a wry smile, "I just want to tell you that I'm going to move out today." "You want to move out? Are you kidding?" Yvette sneered. Since young, she had grown up with Chuck. Knowing him like the back of her hand, how could he move out? Does he want to sleep on the street? But he had been timid since he was a child, even insisting to use her as his body pillow when sleeping. If it weren't for the death of his grandfather, God knows how much longer she would have to be hugged by him to sleep. Such a person sleeping on the street? He wouldn't dare to do that even if he had 10 times the courage. I am not joking with you. I'll move out today. Chuck said seriously. Well, I'd like to see how long you can. Don't come back begging to me like a dog. I won't. After Chuck finished speaking, he turned around and left the office. Yvette stared at his leaving figure thoughtfully. In the past, no matter how much she scolded him, he would not dare to talk back. She didn't know what happened to him today. All of a sudden, her phone rang. After picking up the phone, she quickly changed her tone and answered, "Hello, Director Chester, what happened for you to suddenly call me up like this?" A middle-aged man's voice could be heard from the other end of the phone. "Yvette, I heard that your training company's business is not good recently. Do you want me to introduce some business to you?" Yvette's heart was filled with joy. Her recent business in the training company could be said to be very poor. It was already very difficult for her to make any progress. If she did not show any improvement again, she was afraid that she would have to close the company in half a year. She had already lost more than $100,000 in the past 2 months. It was also because of this that she was recently venting all her anger on Chuck. After hearing Director Chester's business proposals, a smile appeared on her face. "Yes, thank you for taking care of me, Director Chester. Well, room number 1218 in the Triumph Hotel tonight. Come over." A hotel. Yvette was a little scared. "Director Chester, why don't I treat you to a 5-star hotel dinner in the urban area?" "A hotel? What's wrong? You don't even give me face?" No, it's just a hotel." Instantly, a steeled cold voice was heard from the phone. "Humph, forget it if you don't come. This business is given by my friend's company as his employees need to be trained. You should know how much money you can make from a big company with 50 to 60 people. If you don't come, won't force you." Yvette was very conflicted. She didn't want to go, but she didn't want to waste this opportunity either. Just when she had wanted to negotiate, he hung up all of a sudden. "If I don't take the deal, I'm afraid that I'll be going bankrupt." She decided to take the risk. After leaving school, she drove home, planning to simply tidy up and change her clothes. However, when she just arrived at the door of the house, she saw Chuck coming out of the house with a suitcase. The two of them looked at each other. Chuck said, "Wifey." As soon as he spoke, Yvette interrupted him with disgust, "Don't call me like that. Yvette, no matter what, you've been taking care of me for almost a year after Grandpa's death. If you..." Yvette snorted and said, "What's wrong? Do you regret it? Do you want me to give you a chance?" Yvette sneered impatiently. "No, I mean if you have any difficulties in the future, you can tell me." Chuck nodded before walking past Yvette. After all, he and Yvette had been sleeping in the same bed for so long. he still had some feelings for her in his heart. Yvette was also absent-minded for a moment. She didn't expect that this man, whom she looked down upon the most, would say such comforting words. Today, it was as though in a trance, she had found someone to rely upon. But then, she smiled coldly and said, "Tell you? What good would it bring me to tell you? Can you give me money or bring me some customers? You can't give me anything and you can't even afford a meal, yet you want me to tell you?" Chuck shrugged. He still had more than $1 million in his hand. Even if it was not enough, he still had his mother. The money would be transferred to his account with just a phone call. "If you need money, I can give it to you." Yvette feebly waved her hand and sneered, "You'd better keep the money for yourself to buy instant noodles." Chuck did not defend himself. He left with his suitcase. Chuck walked with his suitcase for a while. After inquiring about the hotels nearby, he got on a taxi and went to the Triumph Hotel. The magnificent buildings, the glorious decorations, and the luxurious European interiors shocked him to his core. This was the busiest hotel in the city, which cheapest standard hotel rooms cost at least $800. In the past, Chuck did not dare to think that he could spend in such a place, but now it was different. When Chuck was about to go in, he saw Yvette's car swerving in and parking itself in the parking lot. Chuck was so shocked that he hid aside in a hurry. "This is a hotel. What is she doing here?" Chuck felt extremely bitter in his heart. Is his wifey going to sleep with another man? Although the two of them didn't get a marriage certificate and it was just Grandpa's arrangement, he felt very uncomfortable when he thought that the woman he once held in his arms was going to sleep with others. After Yvette went in, Chuck took his luggage and walked in. As soon as he entered the door, he heard a strange voice saying, "Oh my God, who is this? Isn't this Chuck?" Chuck turned his head and found Laura strolling in with her boyfriend, Conrad Lee, in her arms. Lara's face was full of scorn, as if Chuck was not qualified to come to such a high-end hotel. "Who is this?" Conrad glanced at Chuck and asked casually. "Chuck Cannon, my classmate. I'm telling you, this person picked up $2,000. But he didn't return it and instead spent it himself. I really admire this kind of person." Conrad glanced at Chuck, the corners of his mouth twitching in sarcasm. "Haha, maybe such a trash hasn't seen $2,000 before. Don't talk nonsense with this kind of rubbish. Let's go in quickly, my dear." Lara held Conrad's arm tightly in her arms as if she couldn't wait to enter the hotel. Chuck frowned slightly and ignored them, dragging his luggage into the hotel. "A standard room, please." Conrad took out his identity card, and Lara followed suit shyly. The pretty staff at the front desk checked on the hotel's database and said, "I'm sorry, today's standard room has been fully booked." Lara's face was full of dissatisfaction and loss. Conrad continued to ask, "How about a larger room?" "I'm really sorry." The pretty staff at the front desk checked again, her tone extremely apologetic. "Only the presidential suite is currently available." Conrad probed carefully, the presidential suite? How much is that? He said so in an hesitant tone. For them, they would usually get a standard room that costs a few $100s every time they got a room. As students, it was already pretty extravagant for them to spend a few $100s like this. Yes, it's $8,888 for the presidential suite. Conrad shook his head hurriedly. It's way too expensive. Forget it, let's go find another hotel. Lara muttered and pulled Conrad out. But before they went out, they saw Chuck walking to the front desk. This rubbish really thinks that he is rich after picking up $2,000. Just look at his beggar-looking clothes. How dare he try to book a room in this kind of place? Lara sneered. Conrad also sneered. He was pretty sure that this guy had most $2,000 on him. He would definitely be shocked to death once he heard the price for a night in the presidential suite. However, how's that even possible? Conrad's mind was filled with doubt as he watched Chuck walking towards the elevator with the room card in his hand. What's going on? Wasn't there no standard room? How did that trash Chuck Cannon manage to get a room? Lara Jean saw it too, and she became more and more annoyed. She walked quickly to the front desk and patted it hard, asking defiantly, "Hey, didn't you just say that there was no standard room left? Why did you let that person book one then? Call your manager. I'm going to make a complaint that you are cheating your customers." Conrad's face was cold too. After all, he was a VIP member of this hotel. How could he be fooled by such a receptionist? He was full of anger. "Hurry up and call out your manager." The girl at the front desk was stunned. After a long pause, she said helplessly, "You two misunderstood me. The standard rooms are indeed all fully booked. The room that the person has booked just now is the presidential suite." "How is it possible?" Lara's face changed. Before she retorted hurriedly, "It's impossible. How can that broke idiot afford to book a presidential suite?" The girl at the front desk handed over the receipt which was issued just now. When the two of them saw the payment fee, their faces changed dramatically. Could it be that he picked up more than 2,000? Probably 20,000? Conrad could only think of such a possibility. It's very likely. Lara was even more jealous. That broke idiot actually picked up $20,000. This was almost her living expenses for 1 year. What a stroke of luck. He is really good at spending money. Picking up $20,000 and spending half of it lavishly, such a spendthrift. Lara was bitter, and her face was full of discontent. Idiots are still idiots. He probably thinks that he is rich with that little sum of money. $20,000 is my dad's income for 3 or 4 days, but my dad will never waste it by booking a presidential suite. How dare a broke idiot like him even spend his slim stroke of luck like this? Hilarious. Conrad laughed disdainfully. Chuck placed his luggage in his room and went downstairs to eat. When Lara saw Chuck coming down from the elevator, she thought of something and whispered, "This loser likes to show off, right? Why don't we play around with him for a while?" Conrad was puzzled. But how? Lara smiled and shouted at Chuck, "Hey, Chuck!